Where would we be without cars? They're not even just a form of transport, they can be a restaurant or a cinema. Jump in a car and the world's your oyster. With a clear stretch of wide open highway, cars can make our cities the fast, efficient, clean and safe places we love. Okay, maybe not. In fact, despite being the main way we've got around for the best part of a century, it seems like our love affair with cars is going through a rough spot.
I love you.
Uh-huh. Great. Thanks.
It seems like everywhere from Berlin to Busan is trying to kick cars out of parts of the city. So is this just a temporary fad of urban planning or the start of a permanent change? Well, believe it or not, the answer might lie in a flat-pack sofa. Now, a lot's already been said about how and why cities are running cars off the road, so don't worry, we're not going to go over old ground here, but let's just quickly get you up to speed on the basics. The most obvious reason for this big push is not cars themselves, but what comes out of them. Road transport makes up a big chunk of global CO2 emissions. As well as being bad for the planet, it's also bad for us. Air pollution is the biggest environmental threat to our health, and in the UK it accounts for around 36,000 deaths every year. Then there's the sheer amount of space that cars take up, more than 7 times the space of a bus does to transport the same number of people, and up to 60% of land in American cities is reserved for parking. As the number of people living in urban areas continues to rise, they've begun to question if all that space is really necessary. Gabe Klein, an urban planner in the US, has thought a lot about the role cars play in our cities.
We spend all this time trying to create places where you can move as fast as humanly possible to get from this node to this node. And I think what the lesson's been for cities, because cities sort of lost their sense of self, if you will, with white flight out of the cities and this idea that, hey, we're just going to run freeways through the cities. What happened is cities became insecure. And they said, well, wait a second, are we here to serve the people that live in the city? Or are we here just to serve the population that's left to come back in the city to work?
As the pandemic gave a vision of what clean roads and air could actually look like, many cities began to rethink the role of cars. The Norwegian capital Oslo has been a pioneer in phasing out vehicles from its city centre since 2017. New York City's given more space to outdoor dining. Paris is building new bike lanes. Barcelona is prioritising pedestrians. You get the idea. But at the risk of sounding terribly old-fashioned, surely cars are actually quite good for some things. As fun as cycling is, going for a bike ride in the rain isn't many people's idea of a good time. Cars offer us a sense of freedom that we take for granted, and for disabled people, they can be an essential part of living a more independent life. And aside from anything else, imagine going shopping without a car. Getting groceries home is one thing, but have you ever tried to get a sofa back on public transport?
He actually brought a sofa onto the subway.
Well, you get my point, but developments in retail are now even challenging these assumptions. This is IKEA Westbahnhof in Vienna. Opened in August 2019, it's quite different to what you might expect. Instead of a giant blue shed in an out-of-town park, this is a light, airy building sitting right in the centre of Vienna. Sustainability was a big part of the design brief, and the building is studded with trees which, along with the shade created by its grid-like exterior, are expected to reduce the temperature around the structure by around 2 degrees. As cities right across Europe struggle with rising temperatures, a building which combats urban heat rises in a low-tech way is a pretty big deal. Above the IKEA floors, there's a hostel and even a publicly accessible roof garden where you can come and look out over the city without having to buy a Billy bookcase first. Most importantly for this video though, you can't get here by car. Instead, you'll just have to make do with Vienna's amazing public transport. And you don't need to worry about that sofa. That and other big items can all get delivered within 24 hours. Now, why this is so different is that it's changing our shopping habits so that cars could become irrelevant, just in the same way that out-of-town stores made cars necessary in the first place. And surprisingly, it's retailers themselves who are ahead of the curve on this. IKEA went ahead with the car-free store despite Vienna's landmark car-free zone being voted down in 2020.
Retail, apartment buildings, others are realizing that amenities are important. experience is important, and it's a very competitive environment. The developers had already realized this. They had realized that making car-light cities, complete sidewalk networks, bike lanes, that's what the people wanted that were moving into their buildings. And so often the development community and the business community are working together, and the development community is a little bit more progressive in it.
And this isn't the only one of its kind. Plans were announced in 2021 to open an IKEA on London's Oxford Street, which technically you can get to in a car, but you'd be mad to try. This is all part of a wider trend in retail where physical stores are being used more to create an experience. The job of getting goods home is shifted to delivery drivers. More delivery means less bags or boxes full of goods for you to carry home, which means eventually you might not need that car after all. But IKEA is going even further in rethinking how we use our cities, testing out new ideas at the H22 Expo earlier this year. Located in the Swedish city of Helsingborg, H22 is an exhibition for new, innovative ways to improve cities. One of IKEA's exhibits was DM, a multifunctional marketplace containing a farm, food court and meeting place. As well as providing much-needed jobs for the area, it aimed to create new infrastructure for food consumption and social inclusion. By developing this site in a cut-off, economically deprived suburb, it created opportunities within a small area which could be easily accessed by local residents. Of course, this is just a test, but what's exciting is DM and IKEA Westbahnhof are influencing the debate on how we use our cities in ways we wouldn't have thought possible before. Now, don't worry, we're not saying everyone should scrap their cars and cycle off into the sunset, however tempting the price of petrol might make it. Cars clearly will have a use for the long term to come, and what works in one city won't necessarily work for another. But the assumption that cars should be the main way we get around cities is now being seriously challenged.
We're going to see more innovation. I mean, we've learned, right, that it's not about technology per se, or innovation per se. It's about changing hearts and minds, right? It's about getting people on board. The old way of thinking was, if we do something good for people, it's going to be bad for business, or this group's going to be upset, which is total, So now that people understand the alignment and the positive social outcomes, and that you can be pro-business, pro-environment, pro-people, it's really been a sea change.
We may never outlaw cars from our cities entirely, but who knows? Next time you want to replace your Landskrona with a new Kivik, it might be easier to jump on your Cykel instead of getting in your build. This video is made possible by IKEA. You can learn more about that at the link below. And as always, if you enjoyed this video and you want to learn more about where construction is headed, make sure you're subscribed to tomorrow's build.